These statements and comments have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This information is for educational purposes only. Engage, the micronutrient company, does not claim that our products diagnose, treat, cure, heal, or prevent any disease or injury. Engage's products do, however, address the deficiencies and provide our bodies with the nutrition we are lacking.
All right, welcome everybody to our Optimal Longevity series. And my name is Janet Biebesheimer, and I'm your host. And I'd also like to welcome our co-host, Dr. Russell John Court. Welcome, Dr. Court.
Thank you, Jonette.
All right, and tonight I'd like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Kedar Prasad. He is the world's first PhD in radiation biology. He went to the Brookhaven National Laboratory in Long Island, New York for his postdoctoral training in Parkinson's disease. He was a professor and the director of vitamins and cancer at the University of Colorado School of Medicine for over 30 years. He has published over 250 papers in peer-reviewed journals. He has authored and co-authored over 26 books on radiation biology, neurodegenerative diseases, nutrition, and cancer. And tonight's talk will be on his book on dementia, which is a game changer for both prevention and for actual an adjunct to the actual current treatment for dementia. So welcome, Dr. Prasad.
And Jonette, have you reached out to Dr. Prasad? I'm not seeing him in the meeting yet. Did you send him a text?
I will. No.
I got it.
Okay. And so I'll go ahead and pull up our first, thank you, Jeff, pull up our first document.
But first, I must read a protective disclaimer.
Which is the theme of the Optimal Longevity series, is really a new way to be able to look at your life and the health of your life. And so your lifespan is how long you live. And that's basically from where you are until death. And then your health span is how many years you live a healthy, vibrant life. And according to the medical models, that's just free of disease and disability. But we just want so much more than just that. And so we want your health span to equal your lifespan. And that should include physical health, free of aches and pains, cognitive health, and also emotional and mental health. And so tonight we're going to be talking about that cognitive health and some of the emotional health aspects and what is dementia, the guideline for his book on dementia, and being able to walk through some strategies to be able to help prevent and also help an adjunct for treatment that for people that are currently going through dementia treatment. And Kedar is in. All right.
Okay.
Ooh.
There.
Welcome, Dr. Prasad.
Hi, I got late.
It's all right. Welcome, and everybody's happy that you're on. We've already done a brief intro of what the call is tonight, and then the Optimal Longevity series. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about your book. And if you have not already received this book, okay, everybody on this call by the end will be running to order this for themselves, for their family members, for their practitioners, because this is a thin book. It's probably one of the thinnest ones he's written. But this book right here is going to be, it is a game changer when it comes to a proposed guideline for the prevention of dementia, okay, and for an adjunct also proposed guidelines for the improving the treatment, okay. So we're going to walk through today, and first of all, why this call is so important to every single person, okay, and we'll go over that. But this book right here, everyone, it's a game changer, and it's really simple. It's pretty easy to read, I have to say, compared to his other textbooks. So one of the reasons why this call is so important, okay, is that in 2021, 6.2 million Americans age 65 and above are living with dementia, okay? So that would be 11% over 65, but when you're above 80, it's 50%, people. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're above 80, it's 50%. And in the year 2021, the cost of treatment for dementia in the US was approximately $355 billion with a B. Okay. And why this call is so important for everyone here, okay, is that the current preventative recommendations have failed, okay, to have any significant impact on reducing the incidence of dementia. Okay. And that's a game that's over tonight. Okay. Because we have some strategies and we're excited about that, right, Dr. Prasad?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. I'm going to pull up a little graphic to talk about dementia. And I've got some questions for you. So
yeah. Can I say also,
yes.
In this meeting, and the reason is because I'm writing a revised that book, and there is a difference between a dementia and age-related memory loss.
Oh, good. Okay.
There's a very strong distinction, not only in the symptoms, but also in the biochemical defects or cellular defects. There are differences. So you want me to do that first, and then you go like you were talking about?
Hey, you know what? Let's do that before we go to the dementia model and then talk about symptoms, because you can get overwhelmed and like, oh, is that me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that is the most important aspects,
Yes.
And but I was surprised to find out. So you have, for example, age-related dementia, and there are 40% of Americans aged 65 and over have a age-related dementia, and only 1% of them leads to dementia. And so, what is the difference? Well, first difference is that. That age-related dementia, you forget the name and events once in a while and then recall later on, but you can perform all executive functions, daily routine. You don't have you can analyze things. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you forget, for example, remembering the name of objects or friends long time ago. And so you have delayed in recovery. So this is one, but in dementia, you cannot perform daily duty. You have more frequently you forget the name and place where you were there. So there's a lot of distinction between the symptoms, and age-related dementia is reversible. If you modify your diet and lifestyle, like you were going to mention it, because some of those diet and lifestyle and environment agent, which are external risk factor, are very common to both age-related dementia as well as the dementia, age-related memory loss, we call it, and the dementia. So dementia, of course, there are different forms of dementia that we will discuss. But major distinction is that in one case, you forget occasionally name and place, but you can perform all the functions that you require every day routinely, and you can analyze the book, you can read the book, and so on. But in dementia, you have a confusion, you have all kind of problem of memory related, cannot perform executive function, and so on. So there is a major distinction in symptoms. And so, and biochemically, for example, in age-related dementia, you have a defect in a synapse, not in the cell. Major loss in the defect in synapses. And if you don't take care of that defect, then gradually it kills the cell eventually, and then you have a problem. And so there's another. But in dementia cases, you have loss of cholinergic neuron.
Yes.
Not so there is another major distinction between those two. And so
different mechanisms of action.
Action, exactly. And the age-related memory loss is reversible if you follow the guideline that I will provide it.
That's right.
And also, but dementia, once it goes there, it cannot reverse them. You can improve the treatment, you can improve the outcome, you can reduce the further onset of the disease, but you cannot reverse them. But age-related memory loss, you can reverse them, and I will tell you how to do it. And you mentioned that diet has failed in both cases, but there was a clinical study, double-blind clinical study, where they wanted to measure the age-related memory loss. Can we reverse it?
Mm-hmm.
And they found that if you just modify the external risk factor like diet, do exercise, and they have a good lifestyle, then they can reverse it. Not only reverse it, but even though some of them are carrying the gene like ApoE4, which is a gene defect, and that is shared by both dementia and the age-related memory loss. Even in the presence of that, you reverse that. You don't see any. So this is very important to see that one is reversible, another one is not reversible. And I will provide the guideline for both.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Prasad. All right, I'm going to do a screen share.
Yes.
I think it's helpful because, I mean, you get in there and you're reading it. So one of the things that I learned from your book and just looking at what's out there is that dementia is an umbrella term for symptomology, combinations of symptomologies, which is different than the 4 types of dementia or and the additional alcohol one that you have in your book. And I thought it was so interesting because as an umbrella term, a loss of memory and cognition and other thinking abilities that affect their day-to-day life. But that could be emotional, right? That could be not recognizing where they are, faces, getting lost, always losing keys and things like that. But, and you were kind of splitting some of that apart, but I think it was really important. What is dementia, right? And the different types of dementia. And so with the graphic, will you walk through like, and then you'll add in the end, the alcohol one too, because that's in your book and not on here. Okay.
So you want me to go through?
Yeah, just go ahead and go through the types.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Alzheimer dementia is defined by the presence of a plaque formation in the brain. This is one distinguishing. This is the way Dr. Alzheimer discovered Alzheimer's disease. When he did the autopsy, they found, the brain has a lot of this junk called the plaque formation. And also outside the cell is plaque formation. Inside this cell is what is called the NFT, these neuronal tangles, inside the neuron, another collection of a junk. And so this is defined. And also Alzheimer is defined by another microtubule protein called tau protein, which get hyperphosphorylated. So these are the characteristic of Alzheimer disease in a cellular level. And the symptom you already described, Janet. And vascular dementia is there you don't find any plaque formation or neurofibrillary tangles, NFT, in vascular dementia, but you still have dementia. And the reason is because carotid artery cannot supply enough blood to your brain, and cholinergic neuron dies. And when they die, then you have a dementia. Lewy body is also a disease which is shared by also Parkinson's disease, where there is a collection of excessive formation of a alpha-synuclein, and they get aggregated and then causes damage to the cholinergic neuron, and then you have a Lewy body dementia. And frontotemporal dementia, in this case, there is a genetic mutation in a tau protein, and they get hyperphosphorylated, and then you have this form of a dementia. And other, of course, including other neurological disease that you mentioned, including Huntington's disease, and then in that scenario, it happens in a late. For example, in Parkinson's disease, dementia, it occurs 10 years after the diagnosis of the Parkinson's disease. So it is a late event. So all the other neurological diseases, it is a late. Another thing unique of Alzheimer is the familial. It is very important that in a familiar gene, there are 2 or 3 different genes. Of course, APP is present in 1, present in 2, and the gene defect, then you also have dementia. And when you have a parental inheritance of those three different gene defects, then the Alzheimer's disease appear much earlier, like at the age of 35 or 40 instead of 65 and older. And mixed dementia is that the combination of because you see the Lewy bodies there, or the alpha-synuclein, as well as you see the feature of a plaque and neurofibrillary tangles, NFT. And so they call it mixed dementia, but it has characteristic of both. And so that's what it is.
And then the alcohol-based dementia.
Alcohol dementia is that if you're alcoholic, you start forgetting it. But one good thing about it is that alcohol-induced dementia is reversible. If you don't start, if you go and take care of that, and you don't alcohol drink as much, then it is reversible. In the case of other form of dementia, they are not reversible.
All right. Let me stop share real quick. So we have a graphic for the types of dementia.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why you need to get this book, there's many nuggets in here. There's detailed sections in here on the specific symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia and vascular dementia, mixed dementia, Lewy body, and they're very different. Like the Lewy body, Dr. Court and I had a patient of his that actually had some of those symptoms, and they can have hallucinations.
Yes.
And so one more reason why you need to purchase this book is because you'll be able to identify these symptoms, and they're not everywhere, right, Dr. Prasad?
Yeah, that's correct.
You went and you took the time to put them in here, and that could be able to help you be better educated and empowered with those particular symptomologies.
I think so. This is very important to remember. Symptom is very important, because then you can identify and can discuss with your doctor and take appropriate action to do that.
Right. And so there's a bunch in here, but that's one more reason why you really need to have this book as a reference, so that you can be able to, if you're unsure, you can be able to go on there and that can help you. Also, Dr. Prasad, going back to the umbrella, all of those different types of dementia, they have different mechanisms of action, whether they were the sticky proteins, sticking together for Alzheimer's, or, for vascular dementia, where it's lack of blood flow, right? Cerebral blood flow, or Lewy bodies and the alpha-synuclein, I can't even say that, the alpha-syn, and then mixed, but they all have a different mechanism of action, but they end up with death of the cholinergic neuron, right?
Yes.
And in the hippocampus, in a specific part of your brain.
Yes.
And that affects memory and cognition.
Yes.
Okay. And so it doesn't matter, like all of them have different mechanisms, but they end up in the same place, right, Dr. Prasad?
Yes. But another thing overlying of this all mechanism, what initiated those defects that you mentioned, is increased oxidative stress and chronic inflammation, or you can say chronic neuroinflammation, because we are discussing brain. And therefore, this happened, all those defects that you mentioned, it happens. It is initiated by oxidative stress and inflammation. And so if you control that, for example, even take the example of Alzheimer's disease. But why we produce so much beta amyloid? That's first question, because they ultimately form the plaque. Well, because the enzymes called gamma secretase, which is responsible for splitting the large molecule APP, or amyloid precursor protein, large protein. Either it can go alpha synuclein, alpha amyloid, or beta amyloid. Alpha amyloid is very soluble, non-toxic, so normally this is what happens. But what happens? Oxidative stress selectively increases the activity of gamma secretase. What will happen? Now they are producing APP, is converting more in beta amyloid, which is toxic. But it was initiated by oxidative stress, increases this enzyme. So if you block in the beginning oxidative stress, and I will tell you how, then this thing would not happen. You don't produce beta amyloid. That's one thing beta amyloid role of oxidative stress. But last step by beta amyloid cause neuronal death, cholinergic neuron death, involves free radicals. How? A friend of mine, when he was in San Diego, demonstrated that if you have a neuronal cell culture of cholinergic neuron and you give beta amyloid, they all die. But if you treat them with vitamin E succinate, vitamin E, it protects it. Nobody dies. So that means you can have a beta amyloid, lot of that, even later stage. You can prevent some of the further loss of neuron because no more beta amyloid can't call it. So you can block them at the level of enzyme, but even if it comes out, you can do that. So that is the one thing. And even in vascular dementia, when you have hypoxia, that generates a lot of free radicals. So again, there is also involved. And only place that it is not involved as much is the frontotemporal dementia, because that is caused by mutation in tau protein. And if you have mutation, but even normally, if you have oxidative stress, that by itself will cause hyperphosphorylation of tau protein. So you can see that oxidative stress and works on very different level in vascular dementia and even alpha-synuclein in Parkinsonism. If you have high oxidative stress, your body will start producing more alpha-synuclein, and when you get more alpha-synuclein produced, then they get aggregated and then they become toxic. So even there, you can block the Lewy body's dementia if you take care of oxidative stress. And as you know, whenever your oxidative stress occurs, chronic inflammation occurs at the same time.
Well, you guys, with this conversation with him, he just knew we were going to go over his book. And so you're like already way ahead of me. And I'm like, going, that's
sorry.
No, you know what's so fun is that I just smile and go, he already knows what I'm going to ask, which is great.
No, go ahead. We will repeat. Because
no, it's so good. So
you can also put in a more framework, in a way that most people can understand.
Yeah.
Some people may not understand my pronunciation, but I try my best.
You know what? We're all just grateful for you, Dr. Prasad, and you are 88 years young. So hello. Okay. So I wanted to back up a little bit. What are some of the risk factors? So when we talk about that, so that we can wrap our head around what could be causing that oxidative stress and what are the risk factors that are currently, recommended. And then we're going to dovetail into your micronutrient and the suite that you recommended for prevention. Okay.
Yeah. Some risk factor that we can control. For example, diet. If you have a poor diet, that will increase oxidative stress. If you have macronutrient deficit diet, that will increase. If you are taking a high fatty diet, that will increase your body weight and that will generate free radicals. If you are for example, in a diet, if you are taking excessive amount of sugar, that's no good. And so you have, even if you are taking excessive amount of caffeine, that's not good because caffeine impairs DNA repair system. And so these are the diet issues. So you can modify this diet, have a good diet, balanced diet with low fat, high fiber diet, macronutrient rich like fruits and vegetables, and then you take care of diet. Next is the lifestyle, for example. In lifestyle, you stop smoking. You should not have a depression, anxieties, do some physical exercise every day. These are very important. And lack of that is a risk factor. If you don't do all these things, you smoke, you have a depression and anxiety and don't do any physical activity and also mental activity. This is extremely important for dementia. Mental activity is very important. Not people do it. They just watch TV and then that's it.
You mean reading or brain games? Or
brain game or do something, moderate exercise, do something. Mm-hmm. So there's a lifestyle-related things that we can modify. And then also environmental factor. For example, one of them is EMF radiation exposure, high level. We also have exposure to pesticides. heavy metal like lead, mercury, arsenic, so, these kind of things, and air pollution is very important. Air pollution and air which has a high amount of nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, these are very dangerous gas, and they can increase the risk of not only dementia, but also age-related dementia. So air pollution, which has these kind of changes, you avoid it. But see, sometimes you can't because this is not in our control. So environmental factor, we cannot sometimes avoid it. And good, take the example of EMF. You can't avoid it. Try to minimize it. At least you can do that much. So here are the major factor. And then in case of dementia, also physical injury like traumatic brain injury or concussive injury among athletes, football player, for example, or any where you have a concussive injury, that increases the risk of dementia when you get older. And so these are factors. Some of them we can control it. Some of them we can't. For example, age, we cannot control it. We have to grow older. But you can grow older with a high quality life. And also that, for example, genetics, we can control family history. It is there. You can't. So few things cannot be controlled, but most of them we can control it. But problem is human behavior are impossible to change. And this is the reason. It is not the quality of the recommendations, but suppose theoretically somebody follows some recommendation, part of the recommendation, but it's not sufficient to reduce oxidative and stress and chronic inflammation, which is increasing as a function of advancing age. You can't. So until you are strictly what we are recommending, what the American Association of or NIH or Alzheimer's Association recommends, we don't follow every item they recommend. That's the problem. So it is not the fault of recommendation. It is the fault that we cannot force individual to do, be it junk food. I mean, it is total violation of what is recommended these days in American diet, American kids, the way their lifestyle is. So then second best thing you can do that we will discuss is micronutrient supplement.
Well, I think when you look at the risk factors, they've been out there for a really long time.
50 years.
Okay. And for those of you that don't know this, Dr. Prasad knows a lot about the stressors that cause oxidative stress.
Yes.
The heavy metals,
yes.
Smoking. He just wrote a paper on vaping.
Yes.
Lots of, he's not just an expert of the micronutrient, he's an expert of also the stressors that cause the oxidative stress that
right,
cause
exactly.
these processes in the body.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I thought were really interesting about this book and why this is so important for these risk factors is that this is the first time ever in writing that Dr. Prasad actually stated that the EMF exposure actually is a risk factor for dementia.
Yes.
First time ever in his career.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is really important. And so Dr. Court and myself, we believe we do need to reduce exposure. We've been measuring a long time, but really, especially at night when you sleep. Let's start with baby steps. Let's really work on reducing that. We don't need to have that at night when we repair.
Right.
Second part, because this from last week's carryover, 2 weeks ago, on the Optimal Longevity Series, diabetes, when I wanted to look at the root cause, because we walk through that and you already have a US patent, for the treatment of diabetes on your multi-micronutrient formulation. One of the things that I felt was fascinating when I looked at dementia from the stressors is that if you have diabetes, you are twice as likely to get dementia. Yeah. And so we can back it up that you already provided, a safe strategy that's patented, for them to be able to reduce that. And a 90-day plan, we could be able to do that with your twice-a-day dose. And so I thought that was a very interesting piece when it comes to risk factors, new information for me. So now we're headed to the root cause of dementia, which you gave some of us. But for people on here, it really is all the bees in the room, all of the cumulative exposures over our lifetime causing this oxidative stress. And And so those risk factors we need to work on. And so you've already went over the root cause of the dementia, Dr. Prasad. So do you feel that the oxidative stress, like in your book, really is the root to the neuroinflammation, to the mitochondrial dysfunction, all the way down to the cholinergic neurons dying?
Yes. And I tell you why. Because, for example, take the example of brain, for example. Nobody can argue that brain takes a 20% of respired oxygen, even though it is like it represents 2% of the various organs. But it takes disproportionately very high level of oxygen. Why? Because they need more energy. How you generate energy? Use oxygen. Mitochondria picks up oxygen and generate energy. And so it takes high level. But what is the byproduct of that process? Is free radicals. So free radicals are there, very high amount. So much so that another 2%, somebody has estimated that 2% of oxygen, unused oxygen, leaks out of mitochondria and generates billions of free radicals. On the top of that, if you have no protective mechanism in your brain, then mitochondria themselves are very sensitive to oxidative damage. That's very interesting. But in addition to that, brain has the highest level of membranous structure, axon, dendrites, all these membranous structure. And membranes are very sensitive to free radical damage. So you can see that brain has a structure that they are producing a lot of free radicals, but they also have a structure that are very sensitive to free radicals. And on the top of that, then brain has very little antioxidant defense system to protect against. Once we know that, then he said, well, then you can say, how come nature did not provide enough antioxidant? Well, nature provided in a way plasticity that you can lose few neurons and still you can work, like in aging. And so, but we know we know how to provide them extra benefit of supplement, micronutrient, antioxidant, so that brain can now, no matter how much free radical you are producing, your membranous, all the structures are protected, and then you can prevent it. Because, as you know, one of the reasons of Alzheimer's disease is reduced production of energy by mitochondria. Why? Because they get damaged by their own free radical that they produce. That's almost suicidal in a way. If you don't provide them enough antioxidant, and because they don't have it. And so this is one way of doing it.
Well, one of the things, you're so good, because so can you walk us through our two defense systems that we have? And then the second part of that, the role of the micronutrients.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know, we have two defense systems that we Dr. Prasad and I both go, well, that should have really handled all the excessive oxidative stress. But look at all the stressors that are from all the new industrialization that our brain couldn't handle. So would you mind walking us through the two defense systems?
Sure. Well, one defense system that all of us know is antioxidant defense system, which has a two-component antioxidant enzymes and antioxidant compounds like vitamin C and E and so on. And then another defense system is what is called endocannabinoid defense system. And an endocannabinoid defense system was discovered really in early 90s, so it is not very long compared to antioxidant system. And so, and when the stressor comes, that the endocannabinoid system and antioxidant help each other. But when the antioxidant goes down, endocannabinoid system goes down too. And so they work by different mechanism in your body. Antioxidant works in a different way. Endocannabinoid system works through a receptor. It does the similar things, but it does in a different way. For example, endocannabinoid system through its receptor act as an inhibitor of serotonin reuptake that calms you down, reduces depression, reduces anxieties. It's very important to remember it. In addition to that, the endocannabinoid system or through its receptor, which has a 2 receptor, R1, R2. And so they also directly stimulates neurotransmitter like dopamine. So you feel happy about it. So this is the function of the endocannabinoid receptor system. And so if you want to have a both, to protect your neuron in both ways, then it will be very good, important to have a combination of, say, for example, micro daily EMF together with CBD.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, brain boost is another important factor. And so these 3 combination, and of course, now we have a 4th and 5th one, is a collagen peptides, and collagen peptide binds, as you know, with the beta amyloid and make them inactive. And of course, probiotics, intestinal dysbiosis is associated with all diseases, and therefore we take care with probiotics. But go ahead, ask some. So these are 2 different systems, and one we have paid a lot of attention, but very little attention has been paid by endocannabinoid receptor system. And one way you can stimulate, there are many ways we can stimulate antioxidant defense system, but one way you can stimulate the endocannabinoid receptor, endocannabinoid defense system is by CBD.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only non-toxic way you can do that. There is a lot of synthetic one. They also stimulate the endocannabinoid receptor system, but CBD is the only one FDA approved to be given with children with seizures. And so it is very non-toxic, and we have excellent preparation of CBD. So if you want to make a brain healthy, I think these are the combination: micro daily EMF, a brain boost, CBD, and collagen peptides, and probiotics.
Very good. And so in the book, if you want in great detail, he talks about how the oxidative stress can affect the endocannabinoid system and the antioxidant system, and what's really going on here. So if you wanted more detail on how that works, and then his strategy and the peer-reviewed works that go with that, it's excellent. But there's also a chapter in his book, and we're going to get to this, is really important. One of the things people ask, a lot of the research out there is on a single micronutrient, okay, for every disease, like, vitamin E or vitamin C. Dr. Prasad, can you explain to us why this single micronutrient approach will not work to help with dementia?
Yeah. The reason is, and they have been done clinically and didn't work. And the reason is because if you know your body, people who have Alzheimer's disease have a high level of oxidative stress and inflammation marker. So what happens if you just give a single agent, vitamin E or beta carotene or any single agent, they will get quickly oxidized by the free radical system. And then antioxidant then act as a pro-oxidant like free radicals rather than as an antioxidant. So, it takes little time to accumulate enough to cause adverse effect or no effect. And so, but if you have the same micronutrient like we have in a multiple micronutrient, then they protect each other. So oxidative environment does not influence, but if you use a single one, it will be doing it. Not only that, so if you use a single nutrient, for example, you mentioned vitamin E, it is a lipid soluble. But 80% of our cell has an aqueous water environment. So there are many molecules in a water environment. They are not protected by one. So there are multiple reasons. I'm just giving you a good example that one single, and if you just take a vitamin C alone, it will protect water component of all the molecules in the water portion of the cell, but not a lipid one, not membrane one, or any lipid soluble one. And so it cannot work. That's one reason it does not work.
Well, and I think that for people that want to know a little bit more about what he's talking about with these particular micronutrients, because someone might say transresveratrol is really good, or curcumin is good, and all of those are in our products. He actually wrote a section in here that is easy to read that provides the micronutrient solubility, right, the absorption, the function. So if you want to learn those things and why he put them together in the formulation that has 24 million in research. And, it's in there. There's a section in there, and it's really easy to read. Even if you're not a super technical person, he made it really digestible. And that's a really important tool for that person to understand. So the single micronutrient approach could create a lot more oxidative stress. And
exactly.
If you have this books, it's because the free radicals are different. A super oxide ion is different than a
exactly,
and you need a different antioxidant for each of those. And so it is masterfully made. And no one knows more about this than Dr. Prasad in the world. So that's incredible. So we are now getting to the point, like we've walked people through your proposed strategy of these micronutrients. And then in the book, you actually went through all of the current treatments with medications and how the micronutrient suite of products that you just presented could also work safely with no medication contraindications. So you did that whole section in there. So if you have a loved one that is currently going through treatment, right, of any of these treatments, it's safe, and he walks through, you could go, oh, that's the one, right? And you can be able to, go, oh, it's safe with no medication contraindications. And for me, so many people and veterans, they're on so many medications, and it just is a peace of mind, Dr. Prasad, that for Dr. Court and our team, that we know that it's safe and it reduces the oxidative stress, which is the root, of high blood sugar, right? Which you're twice as likely to have dementia. The root of having, dementia really stems from the amount of oxidative stress from all the risk factors that we just talked about.
First, I will, in the end, I will make the some of the things that is not in the book, but in the next book that I'm writing, it will include it. But right now, just focus on that book component. For example, the what we have in micro daily EMF and brain boost, and just take those two examples. Of course, micro daily EMF is very good for overall general health purpose, but including some in brain. But in brain boost, we added additional supplement, as you know, that was curcumin, resveratrol, and these two are extremely important antioxidant. Not only antioxidant, but resveratrol is also important to make a new mitochondria. That's the only agent that can make a new mitochondria. So it's nice to have it in your brain to make a new mitochondria, because brain is exposed to such a high level of free radical that I mentioned. So that's very important. We also have we added a coenzyme Q10 additional one. We have in micro daily EMF, but we added additional one, the coenzyme Q10 and vitamin B3 or nicotinamide. Dr. Code will say I can't pronounce that right. So vitamin B3 is easy for me to say. Those two are very important as a precursor. They require all these things to generate energy while using the oxygen. And so that is very important to have that. But as I mentioned, the membranous structure are very sensitive to oxidative damage. So they get damaged. So we provided two additional membrane precursor. One is phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylcholine. These two are important precursor to make membrane. So now when new membranes are formed, and you already have given them enough antioxidant protection, so now they are protected and brain is happy. So this is very important to remember. And then question is what we do. We have right now Alzheimer's disease, early phase, or have already on medication. The two kinds of medications are used to treat Alzheimer's. One is inhibitor of the cholinesterase, which the enzyme degrades acetylcholine. I have to have some water. So one group of agent is cholinesterase inhibitor, and this enzyme will degrade acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, And this molecule is responsible for storing your memory and or learning ability and so on. So the idea of the drug, concept of the drug is to improve level of acetylcholine in the cholinergic neuron. So you inhibit in the enzyme which degrades them, you inhibit them, of course, acetylcholine will go up. So this is one group of treatment. Another group of treatment is that you stimulate the receptor, muscarinic or nicotinic receptor. This receptor, which you stimulate them, they will by enzyme acetylcholinesterase, they make more acetylcholine. So idea is how to make more choline either by preventing their degradation or increasing their synthesis. So only two kinds of drugs. So, but these drugs, as you know, they only last for 3 to 6 months on average basis. Cost a lot of money. And so the question is why they only 3 to 6 months? Because the neuron is dying. Because they are not, these drugs do not affect the neuronal death. Why neuron is dying? They are not concerned with. They are concerned with only increasing the acetylcholine level, which of course for a while you will feel better. You will recall, you will have memory improvement. But why neurons are dying? Because it is increased oxidative stress, a lot of free radicals, a lot of inflammation in your body. They are not doing it. So if they combine with, for example, just combine with micro daily EMF and also with brain boost, together with these medication, the effectiveness of the drug may last much longer, may last 1, 2, 5 years for a long time. We don't know because nobody has done it. This is such a common sense phenomena that, but you know, this does not generate enough money for the company, drug company. And so this has been true for all diseases, but I'm just saying that, you know, and one recent they developed, which was which cost like a 30,000, another group of drug. Somebody thought it was a good idea that beta amyloid is kind of peptides. So if I develop an antibody against peptides, beta amyloid, which is a toxic, then remove the beta amyloid, then you will feel better. Your memory can improve. But again, this rely again that cholinergic neuron remain alive. Otherwise, there is no other place to do it. So they develop antibodies, and antibodies, sure enough, despite opposition, FDA approved it by scientists, and it does some effect for a few months, cost $30,000. So they do in animal model. They showed they do remove the beta amyloid, but they did not demonstrate the same thing in human. And so, but what we know now, that at least just like them, in an animal experiment, collagen peptide also does the same thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't remove it, but it makes them inactive. So it can stay there. And maybe phagocytosis, when it is dead, and then they will remove it. Mm-hmm. And so, and antioxidant also, it is very important to remember. The antioxidant treatment also, this is one of the problem is that in Alzheimer and many other neurological diseases, that the phagocytic activity is very much decreased. Mm. And therefore, any dead material, poor dead cells are dying all the time. They don't get removed. And that is toxic. And so they stimulate phagocytosis activity. And so antioxidant, this has been demonstrated. And so there is a lot of benefit can get if you combine the current therapy with the suggested at least micronutrient EMF and brain boost.
Wow, everyone! It's such a pleasure to have Dr. Prasad. Is such a gift. So with that. These in this proposed guidelines in the back of the book, he also put the recommended RDA safety numbers for each micronutrient in the products. So for those people that want to know, and this is your guideline right here. After this call, if you don't have one, you really need to get this for your loved ones, because at above 80, right, we're looking at 50%. but you don't have to do that. We can actually prevent that by reducing the oxidative stress that we talked about today. And we need to we have a special guest on tonight. So Jeff, if you could unmute Dr. Crokin and his beautiful mother, Marianne. We have Dr. Court. We have a case study. And so we're going to have them on tonight. So Dr. Court, would you mind coming on and sharing this incredible story?
Well, thank you, Jonette. I have to say that I have sat in thousands, maybe tens of thousands of seminars and in classes. That was amazing. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, an hour went by? Are you kidding me? Thank you, Dr. Prasad. That was incredible. Well, everyone, I'd like to introduce my best friend, my brother, and my adopted mother. This is Dr. Richard Crokin, who is a very, very dear friend of mine for the last 25 years. And he's a tremendous chiropractor. And this is his mom. And I want to share with you just a little bit about his mom, because she is one of the most amazing women. I just love her to pieces. But she called Richard about, how many years ago was it?
Oh, this is pushing 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years ago, she called and she said, Richard, I'm coming to visit you. And he said, okay, Mom, when are you coming? She said, a couple weeks. And he goes, okay, how long are you staying? And she said, until I die.
Yes, she did.
and so Richard went out and got an apartment and set it up so that his mom would have a great place. And over the last 8 or 9 years, I have watched these two just create the most amazing life together. It is one of my greatest joys. So were you going to show some pictures, Jonette, or did you want to go through?
Well, why don't you keep on talking and I'll pull up a couple pictures, okay?
So these two go everywhere together. And sometimes Marianne doesn't come out of it too well, but I've even been involved in some of these adventures. So Richard, why don't you tell us about some of these adventures that we're showing real quick?
Well, every now and again, Mom will say, we need to take a little trip. So this is up at Seattle's Pike Street Market. And as you can see, together, smiling, having a great day.
Yeah.
Next slide, Jet.
Okay, I've got a few more. These are so good, Dr. Prasad. This is what we're talking about, optimal, right?
Yeah.
Optimal longevity here. Okay. All right.
Okay. Here's the story. For 3 years, she said, please, do you think I can go ski? I said, no, not a chance. Guys, she did not stop. So after the 3rd year of, do you think I could at least do the bunny hill? I finally made a few calls, and that's Mom in a sit ski where she did 4 runs at Mount Hood Timberline Lodge. And of course, Dr. Court right there in front helping.
Yeah, I was set up to run interference. If anybody got too close, I was to take them out. So big, cheeky,
And
most fun ever was skiing with you, Mama.
that
Next
was
slide,
at
Chet.
88 years old.
88 years old.
Same as mine.
What
can do
a
it.
day it was.
And here's
Yeah.
another one.
This is Richard's also a professional ski patrolman. And so this looks like it's at the patrol lodge,
And
hanging out
that's
with her.
that's our 88-year-old skier.
Yep.
This was so much fun and so exciting. And I had such a great time. I'll never forget it. In fact, I still got my ticket and my jacket.
That's awesome. Do you have any other pictures, Jet?
No, those are the 3 I put up.
Okay. So what I want to share with you is that one day, so I put Mama on the micro daily EMF, and she called him. Why don't you tell me what you call the
They
nutrition?
were my greenies.
Yeah, they're her greenies. And we have all these seniors. We were at a party once. We had a couple of people in their late 80s and one in their early 80s. And they're all running around saying, man, I take these greenies. I love these greenies. But Marianne, tell us about when you decided, maybe I'm not going to take the greenies, or maybe just forgot. What happened then?
Well, I really didn't just decide. I think I ran out, but I did not realize what was giving me all the oomph that I needed. And I just was doing so well. I got right cocky and decided I could do the things that I used to do. So I started this big project in sewing. I got off to a great start. My greenies ran out, and all of a sudden, I wasn't thinking about sewing anymore. I wasn't thinking about things that I was missing, that I just suddenly decided, well, I'm just old. I started back on greenies, and about 3 weeks later, I said, I'm going and start my project, get my project out again. And lo and behold, I finished it, and it was beautiful.
And
And
what
I'm
was that
so
project?
excited.
What was
I
that
was
project?
making a crazy quilt for my great granddaughter. And lo and behold, like I say, I finished it, and it was magnificent to me anyway. And it was a kind of a miracle that I finished it. In fact, I called it my miracle. And Dr. Prasad, I told Russ a few weeks back when we were conversing, and he was going to see you, you please give him a hug around the neck and kisses on his face, because I have been revitalized, reborn again, and I'm sassy as ever.
So are you going to get off the greenies again?
Heck no. I told you I was going to stand on the street and pass out pamphlets.
So tell everybody, we have 132 people on this call, and honestly, this lady is my second mother. I love her with every fiber of my heart, and same for Dr. Crokin. Tell me, how young are you?
I'm 91. Still kicking. And Dr. Prasad, I want to thank you with all my heart. I admire you, and I'm so thrilled to get to look upon your face.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish
and
you.
God bless you.
I wish you complete a century, 100 years.
I'm not gonna do without them anymore.
And what I think happens, everyone, is this is a great example of consistency. It's a 2-a-day dose. It's how he made it. And we all have a great lesson to learn here. We can get a little complacent and feel a little cocky that we're feeling great, but it really is a 2-a-day dose. And the consistency, Dr. Prasad.
Yes, very important.
Key. Okay, that's how he made it. So everyone, I want everyone to get back with the person that put them on this call. And you too can live an optimal life of vibrancy and do all these awesome things. And thank you, Dr. Crokin and Miss Marianne. This is a great.
Yes, and Marianne looks so vibrant at the age of 91.
And thank you again, Dr. Prasad, and thank you, my other son, for bringing them into my life.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And you know what? Until 2 weeks, we'll have our next Optimal Longevity series. But what a way to end. And so have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Great job. Thank you so much. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.